I, 25 male, was dating Jade, 24 female, for 4 years. We broke up several months ago when I found out she'd been sleeping with my brother Tommy, 24, for months or even years. Heck, maybe they were secretly cheating since the start. I don't even know anymore. Jade and I lived together and I thought we were expecting a baby together. Then I walked in on them. I didn't catch them in the middle of intimacy or even in bed, but it looked intimate and way too comfortable. They told me I was imagining things and I said I didn't believe them. Tommy said he'd never do me like that. We're brothers and we're there for each other and BS like that. I broke up with Jade. She and Tommy still said I was crazy and nothing was going on. But once Jade realized I was serious and I wasn't supporting her through the pregnancy any further and wanted a DNA test, Tommy came crawling to me, begging for me not to put Jade or his kid at risk. He told me I could be the dad and raise the baby, and he'd never be with Jade again, but she wanted what I could offer her and the baby, and he wanted the best for his kid. Our parents were shocked by what had happened, but also frustrated because Tommy was bouncing from job to job after college. He had no stability or stable income, and Jade wasn't in a much better position. While I'd gone to trade school, earning good money and had stable employment already, they berated Tommy and Jade like crazy and I stepped away. I said I would only step back and communicate with Jade if the baby was mine, and I said I'd pay for a DNA test. Even without knowing, they tried to list me as the father on the birth certificate, but luckily I needed to be there, so that failed. My parents paid for Tommy to take a DNA test at the same time I did, and the DNA proved he was the father, not me. The baby's a few months old now. My parents are taking issue with the fact I ignore that the baby exists like I now ignore that Tommy and Jade exist. They told me I could have sent the baby a gift or something, that I'm still the uncle if I'm not the father. I told them I wanted nothing to do with the mess and it's up to Tommy and Jade to figure this crap out. My parents argued that a good uncle was still important and the baby hadn't done anything to deserve being rejected. I said the baby is innocent, but they're attached to the parents who are both pieces of crap who deserve nothing from me. I told my parents we were talking about the same people who expected me to believe that I'd raise the kid as my own and they'd stop cheating, who tried to force my name on the birth certificate. Those people. I said the baby might be doomed, but I don't feel responsible for saving them from that life. My parents said Tommy and Jade need help for the sake of the baby, and the baby's well-being should be all anyone cares about. I rolled my eyes and my parents told me to take this seriously, and there had been a 50% chance the baby was mine. How could all those feelings just vanish like that? They said the baby deserves that, and even Tommy deserves it to a point because no matter what, he's still my brother. I suggested they step up if they feel help is so deserved because I'm not gonna. They said I was breaking their hearts and Tommy's heart and one day I'd break the baby's heart too, and to think about the bigger picture. Am I the idiot? Saying you're breaking Tommy's precious heart like he didn't try to commit paternity fraud is so disgustingly vile. What about your well-being? Not the idiot. Ignore the dog whistles and focus on yourself as they sure as heck did. Get therapy, surround yourself with people who support you and your choices. Sometimes it's not enough to cut out just those two toxic evil people, but they're enablers too. Mom and Dad. 3 things. She cheated on me with my own brother, she cheated on me with my own brother and had a baby with him. Which of those things obligates me to care about any of them? Their reckless behavior isn't my financial responsibility. I've already cut them out of my life. You keep pushing and you'll be next. I think there needs to be a 4th one to really drive home how bad it was. They were both planning to continue to lie and allow me to pay both emotionally and financially to raise a child that wasn't mine, still trying to add OP's name to the birth certificate as a grade A bullcrap. Clearly they only care about the optics of this. So if OP forgives everything, they can sweep it under the rug and spin some story instead of having to tell the truth and face pity or whatever judgment from others. OP's feelings in this case be damned to them. There had been a 50% chance the baby was mine. Nah, there was 100% chance your brother was grimy. Your parents can play babysitter if they care so much. Still, you're dodging generational stupidity like Neo in The Matrix. Stay strong. My husband, 36, and I, 34 female, recently hosted a small, intimate dinner at our home for his family. We carefully planned everything, seating arrangements, food, and table settings, since it was meant to be a cozy evening with just close family. We invited 8 people, his parents, siblings, and 1 cousin. I took extra care with the menu because I have severe allergies to nuts and shellfish. I cooked everything myself to avoid cross-contamination, and my husband helped plan the dishes accordingly. Since it was a sit-down dinner with a pre-planned meal, it wasn't the type of gathering where you could just add another plate last minute. An hour before dinner, my mother-in-law texted me saying she was bringing my husband's aunt, her sister, because she was in town and had nowhere else to go. I was immediately uncomfortable. This aunt has mocked my allergies before, saying she doesn't believe in all that nonsense, and even once tried to convince me to just take a bite of a dish containing nuts because she thought I was exaggerating. I texted my mother-in-law back, politely but firmly saying, "I'm so sorry, but we don't have extra seating or enough food planned for another guest. I hope you understand." She didn't respond. Instead, she just showed up with the aunt anyway. When I opened the door and saw her standing there, I felt my stomach drop. Mother-in-law was all smiles, acting like nothing was wrong, and said, "It's just one more person. We'll squeeze in." I reminded her that we didn't have enough food, and more importantly, I didn't feel comfortable having someone who had disrespected my food allergies at my dinner table. My husband's aunt laughed and said, "Oh, don't worry, I won't poison you," in a sarcastic tone. She then turned to my husband and said, "Is she always this uptight?" At that moment, something inside me snapped. This wasn't just about the extra guest, it was about the complete disrespect for my boundaries and health. I turned to my mother-in-law and said, "I told you we didn't have room for another person, and yet you still showed up. I don't appreciate being ignored in my own home. If you can't respect that, you're welcome to leave." Silence. Then mother-in-law's face turned red and she said, "Are you seriously kicking us out over one extra plate? This is beyond rude." My husband's siblings jumped in, calling me dramatic and ungracious, saying I could have made something extra or just deal with it. But I stood my ground. I told them I wasn't okay with my boundaries being ignored, and if they couldn't accept that, they didn't have to stay. At this point, my mother-in-law scoffed, grabbed her purse, and stormed out. The rest of the family followed, grumbling about how I ruined dinner over something so small. My husband didn't say much during the argument. Still, after they left, he told me he understood my frustration but thought I could have handled it more tactfully instead of outright telling them to leave. Now his family is furious with me, saying I was cold, inhospitable, and made a scene over something trivial. Mother-in-law even called my husband later, saying she was hurt that we chose to humiliate her over something so minor. My husband still supports me, but he also admitted he wished I'd handle it differently to avoid this huge rift. So, am I the idiot for refusing to accommodate an unexpected guest and making them leave when they ignored my clear boundaries? She came in with both bullying barrels blazing as soon as you answered the door. They planned this, and I'd never invite them again. Ask your husband exactly what way he would have handled it differently. I mean, exact words. Then ask him why he didn't say anything, or anything at all while you were being insulted by his witch of an aunt. I'd avoid her forever. Not the idiot. But he would have handled it differently. I'd have slapped a can of Alpo on a plate and called it handled myself. It's not going to kill you, it's just dog food. Don't be dramatic. The issue wasn't the additional plate. The issue is someone who disrespects you doesn't get to be a guest in your home. This is the real issue. I'm guessing if the uninvited guest had been a pleasant, normal person, OP would have been okay with it. But the guest wasn't. She's abusive toward OP and her husband should have cut that crap right off and sent her packing. Is his idea of handling it differently to not only put up with his mother ignoring OP not wanting the guest there, but to tolerate the abuse as well? Sorry to say, OP, but hubby does not support you. The deal is this. I, 19 male, got an inheritance from my paternal grandparents 2 years ago. They left it in a trust for me that safeguarded it from everyone who might want to use it for their own purposes. This includes my father, their son. I got access to the money when I turned 19, a choice my grandparents made. I was the primary beneficiary, and they left my father the lowest amount they could, which would also prevent him from contesting their will. I haven't lived with my father in 5 years. When he met his wife, he gave me 2 choices. Either agree to treat them all as family from day one and embrace her 2 kids, who were really young when they met, and accept she'll be the mom in the house and it makes her my mom too, or I can get the heck out of his house and stop sponging off him. I chose to live with my maternal grandparents. My mom died when I was 6, for those who'll ask. My parents weren't together and mom was my primary caregiver, but my father had visitation weekends with me before mom died and then I lived with him. I think he blamed me for being born and resented my existence. He sure acted like that way anyway. So I never interacted with his precious little family. I don't know his wife or her kids. I don't care about them and don't feel any sense of obligation to pretend they're my family. This is why I said no when he reached out to me a couple of months ago and asked me to give him money from my inheritance, $40,000, to pay for treatment for one of his stepkids. He sent me a bunch of links about the condition and the treatment, which I think was in Switzerland or maybe Germany. He said the kid was getting worse and they were worried about it becoming fatal. Apparently, this is a condition the kid always had but gets worse, and he doesn't have many treatment options yet. But they have this one, which is something. Honestly, I thought I blocked him on my socials, so the DM was a surprise. I said no, blocked him and carried on. But then he texted me and I wondered how he got my number since I changed mine after I moved in with my grandparents. But he had my paternal grandparents' phones and he found my number on them. I told him to stop and he wasn't getting the money. He sent me some more info via text and even shared their fundraising with me, which wasn't getting much. He said they considered this other place for treatment if they could get some money for it. I blocked the number and blocked the other text that came through. After enough silence, he decided to bring others in and sent my uncle after me. My uncle wanted to know why I said no and whether I'd consider using the money to make him pay for his treatment of me by making him legally obligated to pay me back with interest. I said no. I said I didn't want to help them and I wasn't giving them any of my money. My uncle said I could help a kid, maybe save their life, and that should be considered over who that kid belongs to. Then he dropped the whole step-sibling thing and I told him to get lost. But it made me think a bit. I don't feel guilty, just reflective, because I could give the $40,000 and I'm choosing not to. Heck, I think one of his texts increased how much he wanted me to give, but I could afford it anyway, and I'm just saying no. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your father abandoned you for his new family, and now he only cares because he needs money. You owe him nothing, especially not your inheritance, which was protected for a reason. Kindness is a choice, not an obligation. He burned the bridge, not you. Not only this, but for the family reaching out, tell them to help because they are so concerned. I'd say this and continue to block the numbers, or threaten legal action if the harassment doesn't stop. As long as you have money, someone will always be looking for a handout or a bleeding heart story. The grandpa gave it to you for a reason, not for you to give it away. There's more to the story about why the father was given so little, probably a very good reason. Respect your grandpa's wishes and use every dime to get a leg up. Times are tough for everyone. Have old dad get a second job, but really, who gives a crap? Not your problem. I always figure if someone promises to pay you back, then the bank can lend it to them and they can pay the bank back. What's that? The banks won't lend it to you? Not even for your real kid? Well, someone isn't going to pay me back then, right? Because the banks will loan it to you unless you are a very bad risk. Open your wallet once for them and they won't stop asking. Next, they'll want money to take a little vacation after the treatment. The other kid needs braces. It'll never end. Entitled people keep trying. I doubt there's a life-saving medical treatment for anything costing only $40,000, especially if it's a new treatment. Sounds like your dad is just trying to get money from you. My niece wants to get married next year on my parents' anniversary, which she sees as an honor, especially since my dad passed away 2 years ago. He was like a father to her and she was disappointed that he wouldn't be there to walk her down the aisle. However, my mom told her she wasn't thrilled about this decision and would prefer she pick a different date. To begin with, my mom has said it feels like the date is being taken away from her, that it will no longer be a day about her and her late husband, but about my niece and her new husband. She stated that it would be very hard for her to be at a wedding on what should have been her 56th anniversary and not have her husband at her side. When I asked my sister, my niece's mother, if she chose a different date, I was told that unless the venue can't do that date, there are no plans to change it. I tried to explain to her that our mom wasn't honoured by this decision or happy that she should change the date, but her response was, "But it's to honour Dad." I said there are other ways to honour our dad and make him a part of the moment without taking this day away from our mom. It doesn't seem right to do something to honour one person who is dead at the expense of someone who has to go through an emotional or painful moment. I was told that my niece has reasons for wanting that date, and the date will be hard regardless, but the wedding will make it a happy memory. Basically, I was told to deal with it. Am I in the wrong to suggest she choose a different date since it's hurtful to my mom? I don't understand how she can see it as an honour to do it on their anniversary when my mom has said she's not happy about it and might actually be hurt by the decision. Edit, my mom said something to my niece. When my sister texted me that they were looking at venues, I asked if they'd changed the date, knowing my mom had said she wasn't happy. When I was told they were continuing with the original plan and shared that with my mom, I was just reiterating what my mom was saying as she doesn't text, so I was trying to speak on her behalf. Not the idiot. Your mother has expressed this is not what she wants. What the heck is wrong with your sister and your niece? She has a living grandparent who is hurt by this selfish decision. My husband passed 3 years ago. I don't think I'd be able to make it through a wedding on the same day. I feel for your mother. My idiot cousin tried to do the same thing after my grandfather passed. I think it was her second wedding out of 3. She wanted my grandmother to attend, in the Catholic church my grandparents got married in, on Valentine's Day, less than 30 days after my grandfather passed away. My idiot cousin hoped she would get her inheritance to pay for the wedding since she was doing a great job trying to include my grandmother in the new joy that her second wedding would bring. And of course, she announced all of this the weekend of the funeral. We all told idiot cousin to screw off, go get married or whatever, and leave Grandma out of it. Grandma didn't go, and my mom and I spent time with her that weekend trying to cheer her up. She and my grandfather were married for 53 years. Tell your idiot niece that Grandma isn't excited about her plans and that she should count on her not being there or blessing the wedding. Then get out of the conversation. These are all adults who can handle themselves.